Welcome to the Life Leadership Podcast with myself, Leila Singh, all things coaching, career and personal branding. This podcast is for ambitious career professionals like you, wanting to create a life of choice and freedom, to be, do and have more through overcoming limitations, to develop new perspectives and insights, and to redefine your success, be that in work, health, relationships, and so much more. Hi there, and welcome to Live with Leila. I'd like to welcome each and every one of you, whether it's morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are in the world today. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Leila Singh, and I'm a life leadership, career and personal brand coach. And I work with career professionals, typically in the technology industry, who want to elevate their life and their career to create a life of freedom and choice through overcoming self-imposed limitations, and to create new possibilities by redefining their success in work, health, relationships, and so much more. What I call life leadership, all whilst showing up as the best version of yourself. So in today's session, this is going to be a short, sharp one about delivering on your A game, no matter what. And here's the thing with this, there will always be situations that are outside of our control, and that can impact the way in which we show up, the way that we perform, and the way that we make an impact. And these factors include external circumstances. Now, it could be that we're about to do something and it pours down with rain and we get absolutely drenched, so our hair goes frizzy, if you have that problem, of course. And then you show up and you feel that you're not looking your best because your hair's gotten all frizzy and wet. And therefore, you might not be as confident as you could have been when you show up to do what it is you need to do. Maybe you're running a meeting, you're delivering a presentation, you're meeting up with a client, whatever it might be. And it impacts the way that you're showing up. And that's something that's outside of your control. And it could also be circumstances such as preparation and due diligence, things that needed to have been done that were not your responsibility. Therefore, they're kind of out of your control if they haven't been done. There's also attention to detail and so forth by other people. So it could be you're working on a project and you need input from other people. Maybe you work as part of a team and there are activities that need to happen before you get to complete on your part of the activity or the project or the piece of work. And it might be that you simply are in a situation where you need to deliver a piece of work, but actually it is dependent on other people delivering theirs. So they might not be delivering into yourself, but actually it all forms part of the jigsaw for something to work. And it could be a new solution. It could be a sales process where one piece hasn't been done properly or accurately. It could be that you're testing something and various people have responsibility for those tests. And therefore, there is an element of reliance on other people. So there's a number of things that go on. I'm giving you some work examples, but even in our day-to-day life, there are situations that arise where things are outside of our control and they directly impact how you show up or how you perform and how you deliver. And it could simply be that other people are just not taking the responsibility that you would like them to for their piece in the puzzle. And the easy option, and I've seen this happen so often, the easy option is for you as the individual to then take a little step back and maybe think, well, you know what, this hasn't been done and that hasn't been done, so I don't need to give 100% because no one else is, or it's not going to be the best it could have been because this hasn't happened or so-and-so didn't do that. And therefore, you kind of step back a little bit and maybe you deliver below par from what you would normally do, because whether it's because you feel it's unfair that other people aren't pulling their weight, so then you choose not to, or that you feel, well, you're not going to get the reward or the recognition or whatever it is, the result that you guys are hoping for, and therefore you think, well, why should I put in that extra effort to be top of my game because other people haven't, or we're not going to get the result anyway, or we're going to come second. You know, a matter of different scenarios could be occurring, and then we don't play at our best because maybe we just don't see the point. And then what happens is often we go into blame culture, which is we start to blame all these factors that are outside our control for the result that we have, or the impact we do or don't make, or the outcome of the overall situation or project. So we blame because things haven't occurred as we would have liked. Oh, well, so-and-so didn't do this, or this didn't get done on time, or it rained, or, you know, whatever it was that happened, or somebody maybe was off sick and that piece of the jigsaw didn't get completed on time, or, you know, it took longer than planned, or whatever it might be. But what happens is the natural behavior, and I have seen this often, is that, oh, well, I'm not going to do all the work because everyone else hasn't, or this has happened, or that has happened, or, like I said, we're not going to get the result we wanted anyway, we're not going to come first, and or we're not going to get selected, or not get the recognition, and therefore, well, there's no point me putting all my energy into it because we know the result. And here's the thing, when things aren't occurring as we like, we tend to go into that default mode, or we could step up and push even harder. And the reason I'm talking about this today is because it was really interesting this weekend. I was attending, some of you who know me quite well will know that I do enjoy 80s music, in particular Tony Hadley, and I go to see him in concert when I have the opportunity. And I was at an event this weekend where there were a number of different artists performing. Now, it was an outdoor kind of music festival type of setup, and I've been to a number of these before, so I'm kind of used to the way they operate, the way they're set up, and, you know, everything, how the whole event is run, because I've seen it and I've witnessed it many times. And it was really interesting at this particular event because when I showed up, I was like, this isn't quite like what we were anticipating. It's not what we've experienced in the past. It seemed very small in not just the size of it, but the way it had been put together. A lot of things there were limited, where typically when I've been to similar events, there is so much more in terms of facilities, of choices, things to do, and that kind of thing, even down to the layout of the way everything was set up. And okay, for whatever reason, maybe it's because it was a bank holiday weekend, they didn't get the number of sales they were hoping for, I don't know. And what was interesting to see is that the sound system, for whatever reason, wasn't on par. It wasn't what it could have been to have an amazing experience for the audience. So what happened is it had some of the artists who were impacted by that because they couldn't perform at their best because of the sound system. Without going into all the technicalities of what actually happened or what was going on, because I don't know all of that myself, but I could witness what was happening on stage and what we were experiencing in the audience. The point is, there were individuals who would just blame and come on stage and were really affected by it. And that gives them a bad experience or a poor experience. It also gives the audience not such a great experience either. And let me ask you this. Has it been the case that if someone comes on stage, whether it's at a concert or a show or something, and something's not quite working, and they then blame, doesn't really give you necessarily a great impression of what's going on, whether it's of the organizers or the artist. It's like, it's not great. And you kind of feel bad for the artists as well. And so what was really nice to see is that, so Tony Hadley was headlining the event. So he and his band were coming on last at the end of the evening. And having already realized that the sound system wasn't great, which clearly will impact a musical experience, his crew came on and they went over and above because they could see things weren't working well, but they spent inordinate amounts of time going back and forth, checking the mics, checking everything set up, and having to do a lot more. I have seen that crew set up many a time. And it's literally automated clockwork on stage, plug everything in, check the mics off, probably, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes, but really slick. And yet at the weekend, they were going round and round, checking, unplugging, doing this, doing that, trying to get things to work as best as they possibly can. So working with what they had available to them to set it up as best as they possibly could for the band of Tony to come on and perform. And what was nice about it is they took the time to do that. Now, this isn't about necessarily comparing the artists, because some of the other artists may not have had the crew behind them to support them to come on and check all of that. And it could be they were reliant upon the people who were organizing the event, who had set up and hadn't realized that things weren't working as best they could have been at the optimal. But what was good to see is that Tony Hadley's crew, the band and so forth, took the time, which meant it impacted the amount of time they had on stage. They were meant to have come on about, I think, 15, 20 minutes earlier than they did because of what was occurring on stage with the sound systems and all the technicalities. Ultimately, however, they came on, so Tony and the band, they came on and they delivered on their A game. As always, a powerful and a professional performance. Now, I've seen them perform, or Tony and his band perform, over 25 times now. So I'm used to the experience, what we see, what we hear. And yes, there were still technical hitches occurring throughout their performance. They embraced it, they kind of laughed about it between themselves, and they continue to keep delivering at their optimum with what they had available to them. What they didn't do was stop and complain or make faces or blame other people, right? And that's the thing. It's about the experience of the audience, yes, but it's also about how we handle a situation, even when things aren't as they should be, because that's where, as an individual, you get to really stand out. It's about, you often hear about overcoming adversities, but how did you handle overcoming that adversity? How did you deal with that challenge that was thrown at you? The unexpected dilemma or situation that occurred? Because that's what builds character. That's what helps you to grow, but also that's what creates a really great impression with the people around you that matter, and also enables you to stand out as someone who will rise above the adversity, the challenge, and yet still give 100% to endeavor to give the best outcome. I'm using an example of a concert. We could be talking about a work situation, a work environment. So, for example, if other things haven't been done as they should, I'm not suggesting you pick up other people's work and do it yourself, not at all. What I am suggesting is you don't take your eye off the ball. So you continue to be you, to show up at 100%, to stay in your lane, because it's very easy for us to get distracted with all the things that aren't working or haven't been done. And then we fall into that rut and that low energy of, so-and-so hasn't done this, or this isn't working. And then it affects how you perform, how you are completing a piece of work, or how you are delivering a presentation, because there's all these things aren't great and we start to focus on them. So focus on being you, staying in your lane and showing up as your best self and delivering at 100%. Because that in itself will enable you to show up. And for those of you who've heard me talk about personal branding and building your personal brand, one of the core aspects of that, of having a powerful personal brand, is your ability to consistently show up at 100% and stand out. And this is a great way of doing that, by being your best self and not allowing circumstances or people outside of your control to impact how you're showing up. So let me know if this makes sense, if you've ever been in a situation like this and how you've handled that. So I'd like that to be your biggest takeaway today, is you be you, stay in your lane and focus on showing up and delivering at your best, no matter what is happening around you. Avoid blame at all costs and just focus on controlling what you can. And then remember, it's how you handle a situation, even where things are not as they should be, that build your character, that will have people around you have a better experience of you and to have you stand out amongst the crowd. So my question to you today is, do you consistently deliver on your A game no matter what is occurring around you? Or are you quick to sit back, as others do or might do, and focus on what is not working? And it may be that the end result, the output, the outcome, the delivery isn't as you would have hoped because certain things weren't done or dealt with or looked at or delivered on time or whatever it is. But at least you can walk away and remember that, you know what, I put 100% into my part of this puzzle. And for me, I gave everything. That's all I could have done. What you don't want to be doing is slipping into that situation of, well, others aren't doing it. Why would I bother? You know what? Let's show up as average. You don't want to be mediocre. You don't want to be average. You want to be at 100% delivering on your A game consistently. So just something to think about today, simply because it was what I experienced at this concert at the weekend. And like I said, it makes for an amazing experience when you can, I'm not saying you can completely ignore it, but if you can overcome the adversity or the challenge of what's happening around you, the things that maybe aren't as they could be, they're not at their optimal, there's issues going on. In this case, it was the sound, but you can still get up there and you can deliver on your A game at 100% and deliver an amazing experience for the people around you, deliver the results, whether it's a client conversation, a presentation, a project, piece of work, you know you can walk away having done your absolute best. So that's simply something to think about for today. Until next time, remember to elevate your performance, maximize your potential, and create new possibilities by showing up as the best version of you. Take care and have a great rest of the week. Thank you for listening. Please subscribe to this podcast if you haven't already done so. And if you enjoyed and gained value from today's episode, then do please leave a review telling us your key learnings and what you enjoyed the most. And do please share this podcast with your friends and colleagues so we can spread the word on life leadership, creating a life of choice, freedom, and new possibilities. Connect with me directly on LinkedIn, and if you would like to learn more about how we can work together, either DM me on LinkedIn or email me. All details and resources can be found in the show notes.